And Brandon, let's move on. Let's actually stay in the realm of NFL trade rumors. And as we're 2 weeks to the trade deadline, usually nothing happens in the NFL, and I hate it because I love trades no matter what sport it is. But I always love talking about possible trades for teams. And this story is actually coming to us from CBS Sports. And the Oakland Raiders have not been doing too well. They are 1-5.
They're bad. They're a horrible team.
They are bad, to put it nicely or put it bluntly. John Gruden's supposed to be the savior, and I even read an article headline today that was like, hey, wasn't Derek Carr supposed to be better with John Gruden? What the hell's going on with that? But the story coming out of CBS, and I'll read the exact quote from the article. And as CBS Sports NFL insider Jason LaCanfora reported on Sunday morning, everything is for sale in Oakland. The Raiders' trade to ship out Khalil Mack may have been only the beginning of desk chairs being tossed off the side of the Titanic, as the team is actively shopping former first-round pick Carl Joseph, who has underperformed since being taken from West Virginia. Also a possibility, former first-round pick Amari Cooper could be traded by the Raiders. And this was also reported by Brandon's guy, Jay Glazer of Fox Sports. So the thing I'm going to ask you, Brandon, is if you want to talk a little bit about the Raiders and their dysfunction, go ahead, because we could talk for days on that. But really, will the Raiders trade Amari Cooper? And if so, which teams should be picking up the phone, calling Big Boy John, trying to get Amari Cooper on their team?
Well, yeah, first I just want to say the Raiders have looked so sad. It's beyond the point of even funny anymore. They look like such a dysfunctional team from week to week. You don't know what you're going to get with Derek Carr. He comes out and he plays the Browns and has this huge game, and then he comes out and he plays the Seattle Seahawks. You would have thought the Legion of Boom was back together on that Seattle defense. That's how bad Derek Carr looked. Jalen Richard, the backup running back, was the leading receiver, so he screwed royally everyone in fantasy. Thanks, Derek. But I think that right now the Oakland Raiders are not going to be able to trade Amari Cooper if their asking price is a first-round pick. Now, I get Amari Cooper was a first-round talent back in 2015, the fourth overall pick. I get it. He was obviously well worth it. But you look at this now, and Cooper has consistently either led the league or been second in the league in drops. That's been one of the things that's been bad. You look at what he did last season and what he's already started off to this year. It is the same word that keeps coming up. It's inconsistent. And he's never been a big touchdown guy. I think the most touchdowns he's had in a season in his career is 7. And it's good, don't get me wrong, but when you're talking about the elites, you're talking about the Antonio Browns, you're talking about the DeAndre Hopkins, they've got double-digit touchdown catches in a season. And Amari Cooper's not there yet. He's still, yes, a younger guy, younger receiver, but when is it that you look at him actually panning out to be what they expected him to be when they drafted him, if I can get the word out of my mouth, as the 4th overall pick in 2015. He's not playing like he was a number 1 draft pick at one point, let alone number 4 overall. And right now, there's no team, I don't think, that will be giving up a first-round pick for Amari Cooper, a guy now who's going into the concussion protocol. He got hit, a nasty hit, I might add, in the game against Seattle this past weekend, and left the game. He wasn't going to return. So this is not something where I think the Oakland Raiders, unless their asking price comes down from a first-round pick, I don't think that there's going to be anybody who's going to want to bring Amari Cooper on. It's just too steep of a price to ask.
I am going to be a little bit on the other. I'm going to be on the other side of you, but not completely, if that makes any sense. I'm on the other side from you in the fact that a first-round pick is not too steep, depending on what first-round pick we are talking about. And for me, that comes down to if it's a if it's like first overall pick, yeah, it's way too steep for Amari Cooper. But if we're talking like a playoff round pick, like a mid to low 20s kind of a pick, all right, we could be talking here. And the reason why I say so is there's one team that I'm going to bring up first that I think could be trading for or could be interested in an Amari Cooper trade. And before I say the team, I will say the interesting thing about the trade deadline this year and with teams is at this point in the year, teams have not separated themselves completely from each other, where there are still where it's like, for example, if the draft was today, Dallas would be the 13th overall pick, but in 2 weeks, they could be where Washington is, and then they're magically a 25th overall pick instead. So there's a lot of teams very close to each other at this point, but one team I'm going to throw out there is the Washington Redskins. And the reason why I am throwing them out there is because they need a shot in the arm when it comes to wide receivers. They go out this past offseason and they go ahead and they get Alex Smith, basically saying, we don't believe in, like, let's be honest, they never believed in Kirk Cousins. We knew it. They didn't have to tell us. But they officially said, we don't believe in Kirk Cousins. Alex Smith is going to be our guy. They went ahead and traded with the Chiefs to bring him in. Then they bring in Adrian Peterson, and both Smith and Peterson have looked good this year. And when you look at their wide receivers, Josh Doxson, they drafted him. He hasn't been exactly what they want him to be. Jamison Crowder is all right. And then they have Paul Richardson. Behind them, they've got like Maurice Harris, Brian Quick, and then Michael Floyd, who will never be where he was when he was his best with the Arizona Cardinals in my mind. And the reason why I say them, though, is because right now, if they stay top of the division in the East, which I know is a big if, but Amari Cooper would help you hopefully win some games and stay there, they would be the 25th overall pick. And I know this is going to hurt my point, but I hope it'll help my point also. This past year, some guys taken around there. You can go with the good. Calvin Ridley was 26. He's been playing really well. But then you can also go with DJ Moore, who was at 24. If you go in 2017, the 25th overall pick was Jabril Peppers. The first, Evan Ingram was the offensive player around there at 23. And then I'll just go to the 2016 draft where the 25th overall pick was Artie Burns, but the 26th pick was Paxton Lynch. And I know what you're saying. Well, Ricky, duh. It's called drafting and scouting, and if you pick the wrong guy, of course, he's going to be bad. But to me, I feel like at a 25th and below pick, and I know this is all projection at this point, I feel like that kind of a first-round pick might be worth it for the Redskins to gamble that kind of a pick in order to add Amari Cooper and then boost them in a division where the Eagles are going to be nipping at their toes, and the Cowboys won't make the playoffs, but they're going to be nipping at the toes of the Redskins all year.
Yeah, I think that makes sense with the Redskins for sure, because there's not one guy that stands out to me when you look at the Redskins and you say, wow, that's their number one receiver. Mm-hmm. For a while, I thought it was Chris Thompson, the running back, but he got hurt. And when that's your number one wide receiver, you should be very worried. Mm-hmm. But the team that I think, if there's going to be a team that would be willing to do that would gamble, that has gambled many times before, keep it in the division, it's the Dallas Cowboys.
They're my second team.
So badly. They would be my first, then my second, and my third, because they need one that badly. I mean, mm-hmm. Cole Beasley showed up this past weekend, but you don't think of Cole Beasley as being your number one guy. You just don't. He's your maybe your number 2B or your number 3. So I think that if they were able to get in a guy like Amari Cooper, it's a big wide receiver. It's a good target to go to for Dak Prescott. Certainly could be like a safety blanket for him in terms of who he can get the ball to, but who he can trust. You would like to think that, but again, I mentioned earlier, Amari Cooper has had the dropsies. It's one thing he needs to certainly shake if he wants to have a good career in the NFL and not be known for, being the king of the drops. But I think it fits. I think it fits. And for Dallas, this might actually be the first time you go after maybe a quote-unquote a big-time wide receiver that they don't have a ton of baggage with them. And that would be very nice. That would be very nice for them. And I think that a guy like Jerry Jones would see Amari Cooper and say, that's worth it. That's worth it. We're still alive. We just beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. We did that with, no true number one wide receiver. We did that with no Jason Witten. We blew them out. We're looking good. We feel good about ourselves. We can make a run. We can make a run at the division. We can make a run at the playoffs. We're going to get a guy in here. That first-round pick, who cares? Who cares? We got a second. We got a third. We got a fourth. Jerry Jones would be that type of guy to go and do that. So the Dallas Cowboys, they make an absolute ton of sense for me. If Amari Cooper were to get traded, I still think that a first-round pick is too high, and I don't think Oakland's going to be very good come the end of the season. So I think they would be getting a higher pick. We're looking 1 through 10. We're not looking 15 through 20 or 15, through 30. Whatever that, whatever it might be there. But so that's why I think that they're going to be a high pick. Well, it's not going to be somewhere in the middle rounds. But the other team that I would kind of mention.
Before you bring up that other team, can I ask one question? Right now, the projection would be if the draft was today, the Cowboys would be the 13th overall pick. Do you think Jerry Jones would trade that high of a pick? I know it's not top 10, but it's close. Would he trade a 13th overall pick for Amari Cooper?
Oh, man, Ricky, I am really an idiot. I was saying for Oakland's first-round pick. I don't know why I was thinking that for the Cowboys. I'm sorry. I was completely confused with myself on that one. So I apologize to everyone. So don't think I'm an idiot. I'm correcting myself right now. So, the Cowboys actually – the pick would be.
I think it's too high.
I think probably in the middle round. I think they would be in the middle rounds most likely. I think they could probably be, let's say, even 15 to 17. And that is probably not too high for Jerry Jones, but that might be too high for somebody else. Because depending on who, when a team looks at it as who are we getting, and is it even worth that first-round pick? A lot of the guys may say, no, I'm not thrilled with giving up that first-rounder because of someone they already have their eye on, someone they don't want to miss out on. But Jerry Jones never struck me as that guy who's all that, unless you're a top 5 and he wants to go get that quarterback or that wide receiver or anything like that. I think that he would be happy to probably bring on an Amari Cooper like that. Again, I apologize for the confusion on that. I was confusing myself.
Who's your next team that you were going to bring up?
Next team I was going to say is when this guy went out and got hurt, I worried for this team, and that's Greg Olsen. When Greg Olsen got hurt for the Panthers, I really worried because he's their target. He's their number one target for Cam Newton. You take him away, then the number one target is Devin Funchess. It doesn't strike fear into me and probably not too many other teams because Devin Funchess still may be waiting for him to pan out. Amari Cooper could be a big boost to that team, to that passing game, which I think a lot of times struggles because they don't really have a ton of weapons producing. Now they have DJ Moore. He's a weapon. He just hasn't produced yet. But without Greg Olsen, I really look around and I go, where are they going to be? How are they going to do? And I mean, they lost to Washington this past weekend. Cam put up decent stats, but some of the guys that he's finding, like Curtis Samuel and stuff like that. I mean, they're not necessarily household names. They're not stud wide receivers, and that they could really use a stud wide receiver. The last time that the Panthers had a stud wide receiver was Steve Smith. with Steve Smith. That was a long time ago. And they haven't had one since. If you're not counting Greg Olsen, because he's a tight end. He plays like a wide receiver. And with him hurt now the last couple of seasons, and I'm still kind of, unsure of when will he be fully healthy, even though, yes, he played. Is he fully healthy? Does he re-injure it again? You hope that he doesn't, but having Amari Cooper is a great safety net, is a great addition to your wide receiver core.
Now, I've got two teams. One is my second team. Well, my third team, I'd say, because the Cowboys would be the second team that I went along with you with. I have one that I'm going to bring up, and then one I want to ask you about. And the first one I'll bring up to kind of be my last team is a team that, because to me the big thing is, and I'm going to read the quote here from the CBS article. This is Ian Rappaport saying this, where he said, the other one that came out yesterday, Amari Cooper, which is something that would have been unthinkable a couple weeks ago and certainly a couple months ago. But the Raiders have had some conversations about potentially trading him. My understanding is they've asked for a first-round pick in exchange for Amari Cooper, which is incredibly significant and which makes it difficult, but not impossible, to trade him. The first-round pick is the big linchpin in this. But there is one team, this is kind of in line with the Redskins line of thinking that I had. What about the Baltimore Ravens? They're a team that their wide receivers, to me, aren't the strongest. I mean, Willie Snead, Michael Crabtree, John Brown. I know they also have like Chris Moore and Lasley. They have their tight ends aren't the strongest, but they really like Mark Andrews that they drafted this past year. And they already got their answer, or what they think is their answer, at quarterback for the future. So they don't have to necessarily use that here. If they're a team that, of course, they're in the running to win the division and make a run in the playoffs, they're a team that I look at and I just go, all right, if the draft started today, they could possibly be a divisional round team. They could be maybe the 28th overall pick, which to me, if I'm Baltimore, you know what? Maybe I'm okay with giving up the 28th overall pick if that means I can give Joe Flacco this year. Yes, he's got a case of the dropsies, but I can give him a deep ball threat in Amari Cooper to add to Crabtree and this receiving core, and only help myself if I have to go up against a New England team that everyone thinks, New England and KC, but with New England, because I still think they're the favorite to represent the AFC in my mind. Their biggest weakness is their cornerbacks, and could Amari Cooper on a Baltimore team exploit that? First off, what do you think if the Ravens were in talks to get Amari Cooper?
I'd be interested with that. I mean, you talk about, again, you bring the drops up again, he'd be right alongside another guy who they're talked about with the dropsies, and that is Michael Crabtree.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have a dropsy guy on one side and a dropsy guy on the other side. But you put in Michael Crabtree on the outside, then you put Cooper, the starting wide receiver on the other side, and you put John Brown in the slot, and you have Willie Snead then to come in. I think that would be a really good wide receiver core, and it would finally be some pretty good wide receivers for Joe Flacco to throw to. And Flacco has gotten tons of slack, and people have really given him a lot of crap for he's really not that good of a quarterback. He got this huge contract. He's not that. Well, yeah, it really hasn't had really great wide receivers to work with in Baltimore. For a long time, Baltimore, it's been that running game. It's been that running game.
Probably his best that he's had is Torrey Smith. Like Torrey Smith and Steve Smith's the big name, but Torrey Smith was his last true number one receiver.
Yeah, and I know Steve Smith was over there, but that was towards the end of his career.
Yeah,
I mean, his best days were clearly in Carolina.
He was just the big name.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that with an addition of Amari Cooper, if you went over there, that really puts the Ravens, I think, in a good spot for this year and beyond, with Cooper still being young. This is a team right now that's looking really good. I mean, look what they did this past weekend against the Titans. Their defense is solid. They are set there. You had another offensive piece, an offensive weapon, that might just push them over the top over there in the AFC North. It might. It might. I mean, it would still be a battle. They already beat Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. They lost to Cincinnati. It's still something that you really can't count out Cleveland. They lost to Cleveland. But it would be a fight. It would be a true fight over there, and I think it'd be really close. I think Amari Cooper would put them in a good spot, because now you're not just guarding Crabtree. Mm-hmm. Now you're not just guarding John Brown. You add in Amari Cooper, that's another guy that you got to cover. It makes things a little bit more difficult for defenses.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Cleveland, because they're the last team I want to ask you about. I basically just want to ask you, I'm looking at an article here from brownswire.usatoday.com, and it just basically asks, should the Browns trade a first-round pick for Amari Cooper? What is your answer to that?
Yeah, why not?
You're like, yeah, what? Because that's kind of what I'm thinking. They've added enough young talent like last year and the year before to put that defense together. I know it'll be probably a higher pick, well, lower than they're used to, but still a high enough pick. I feel like the Browns could be fuck it, let's do it, and give Baker Mayfield a weapon like Amari Cooper. Like, could you imagine Jarvis Landry and Amari Cooper for Baker Mayfield to throw to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's Amari Cooper is certainly a more dangerous name than Rashard Higgins. I think that's you add those two together, then you put in David Njoku, who kind of had a slow start. A lot of people thought that after the flashes they saw from him last year with Kaiser in there at quarterback, they thought, oh, this guy, he's gonna really, really be good next year. Well, he really hasn't been that great, but he had a good game this past weekend. And there's plenty of talent there with that young tight end. You add in Amari Cooper, it's a great another option for Baker Mayfield to throw to. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, in my opinion. That could be a really dangerous Cleveland offense. You have Carlos Hyde, who's been a solid option at the running back position. Nick Chubb, who's an up-and-coming, I think, really good running back. There would be a lot of options for Cleveland, and a Cleveland defense that has really turned over a lot of teams this year. It could be interesting. You add in Amari Cooper there to Cleveland, and like I kind of said with the Ravens, you're mixing things up then in the North over there in the AFC. Cleveland isn't just that, oh, well, little brother, he's doing good. Oh, he's trying. Oh, look at them getting a couple of wins. No, Cleveland could actually be competing over there, which they've already shown to. They should have beat Pittsburgh week 1, let's be honest. They beat Baltimore. There's going to be plenty more interesting matchups when they are facing Cincinnati, Baltimore again, Pittsburgh again, and then in Pittsburgh just in a couple of weeks. So it's going to be very interesting how things will go, even if they don't have Amari Cooper. But you add him into the mix, that's, another good wide receiver, another wide receiver the defenses have to account for. I will be interested to see if any team does actually end up pulling the trigger with Cooper, because he is good. He is good, but is a team willing to give away that first-round pick? Mm-hmm. And then does it? And if they are, is it because, like you had mentioned, and when I was, unfortunately flubbing it up with Dallas, if they're a middle of the road pick, if they're maybe projecting, oh, we'll be a 15. Mm-hmm. Well, we're not going to get any of them, top talent. Mm-hmm. So might as well just get a top talent here and give this away. If they're just asking for one pick, first rounder, bring on over Cooper, have him for a while. Dak is able to finally have, well, again, I mean, there was Des Bryant, but have a wide receiver who's going to be here. You build around him, and you add to, add more around him because you'll need to. It's really kind of all about where is that team going to fall, or where are they projecting that they'll fall in that first round. I still think that there will be teams that, even if it's a first-round pick, no matter where, they may just be weary of giving that up. But then there's, of course, teams who they don't necessarily care, and they're in a win-now situation. You really have to look at those teams that are in the win-nows, especially with the head coaches that could be on the hot seat. And Jason Garrett is always, I feel like, every day that ends in Y, he is. So it would be an interesting – that's why I keep going back to Dallas, because that's interesting to me. But if you want to continue to talk about the hot seat, I think you could still talk about Jay Gruden over there as well in Washington, which was your first team.
Yeah, and I mean, Jason Garrett, if they would have lost this week, we would have definitely been talking about him possibly getting fired. But this is where you guys come in. Let us know what you guys think down below in the comment section. First off, what do you think of the Raiders right now? Black Hole Nation, Raider Nation, let us know what you guys think in that comment section. Do you want Cooper to be traded? If he does get traded, what team? And also, what do you think some of the packages could be? Let us know what you think down below in that comment section.